asking propelling questions and their ability to be able to turn you from a victim to a transformer. Welcome to Thank God It's a Story Saturday, a weekly video series where I share stories with you that you can use to make your messages connect. Today's stories from this book called A Beautiful Constraint. I have done many stories from Beautiful Constraint before, but I was reminded of today's story because today's story has a mask in it, and don't we all see masks all the time these days? Now, the story goes back to mid-1990s, but before that, a little bit about Nike, because the story is around Nike. Now, Nike is an innovative brand. We all know that. It is obsessed with being able to understand athletes' needs, innovate accordingly, and this obsession has paid off well for Nike. But back in the mid-1990s, Nike came into bad light for poor working conditions of the workers in Asia who worked in Nike factories. Global Exchange, the international human rights organization, had singled out Nike to make a splash and build awareness around poor working conditions of the workers in the factories. Nike had started to come under a bit of a pressure. At first, the CEO, Phil Knight, responded to the problem in a very defensive way. His 1997 annual report had the following statement in it: "We are not here to eliminate poverty and famine or lead the war against violence and crime. Our critics say that the world is going to hell in a Nike sports bag. Then again, our critics, for the most part, aren't athletes." So he did not feel like it was his responsibility for the things that Nike was being blamed for. But the pressures kept building. Consumers started to boycott the brand, and activists would suddenly show up in the shareholders' meeting. Nike had no choice but to engage with the matter. In 2004, newly appointed VP for Corporate Social Responsibility, Hannah Jones, stood in the factory looking at hundreds of workers with the mask, which was a compliance thing to wear masks because the glue that they were using in the factory had toxic fumes. This glue was used to combine the sole with the upper of the shoe. Now, she stood in the factory looking at the workers thinking, there is no way we can ensure compliance by policing and monitoring and always checking whether everyone's got a mask on, because there are so many workers in so many factories. How can we ensure that this is done by just policing? Because compliance is easy when someone's watching, but the moment an inspector's not watching, it slips away. She asked herself a propelling question. The question was, how can we make sure that there is 100% compliance, safe practices for our workers, and we don't even have to police them? This question then was discussed with the team, and the team came out with a solution, and they said, if the problem is the glue, then can we change the glue? Sure enough, the team changed the glue, which was a water solvent glue with less exposure, 95% less exposure for the workers, and the toxic fumes were taken away. Now, rather than trying to get everyone to wear the mask, they actually changed the glue. Now, the point of this story is that you have to really look at what is it exactly that is causing you to be a victim. Is that even necessary? And if not, then delete it. If you can change it to something else, then change it. And asking that propelling question often is what shifts you from a victim to a transformer. By the way, that new glue also made the performance of the athletes better, which perhaps was a bigger innovation for Nike. Stay storied, and I'll see you here next Saturday with another story.